Hello, Magic Muse, witches, heathens. Welcome back to As Above, So Below. Today we're going to be chatting about psychic powers and signs that your intuition is revving up. So, this is a broad topic, but we're going to start with the clairs. So, you have clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clairsentience, which is clear feeling, claircognizance, which is clear knowing, clairvoyance, which is the one everybody seems to know, and that I feel like that one gets the most dramatized, especially in TV shows, but it is clear seeing, so you can see pictures. Clairgustinance, which is taste, and clairalience, which is smell. And then there's also mediumship. So, and with mediumship, there is psychic involvement. So let's start with psychic stuff first. So have you ever felt like you knew an answer to something and you didn't know why you knew the answer to something? It was just like a random download. Or you saw like a flash of something in your mind's eye. I do this all the time when I lose things. So if I lost my phone, I will sit, instead of running around frantically, I will actually sit and ask Spirit, like, Spirit, please show me where I lost my phone. And I will actually get an image of where it is. It doesn't happen all the time, but a lot of the times it does happen because I've done it so often that I'm like, let me see if I can work this muscle a little bit. So, and it is working. So give that a shot. Or if you see sparkles, this was something that I couldn't really get a firm answer on when I was going through my psychic awakening. I was seeing a lot of sparkles, and there was a time where I actually was sitting and I saw one of my friends. She was, a bit far away. But then I started to see like a form of a head and a silhouette right next to her, but it was like in sparkle vision. And as soon as I picked up on it, it went away. So that is also a manifestation of spirit. So you can be seeing other people's guides, you can see orbs, energies, and really tapping into these gifts. So it gives you a lot of insight on which ones are going to be a little bit easier to develop and hone in, and which ones are gonna need a little bit more work. So for me, for example, I am a very visual and a natural, like, music comes very natural to me. I sang in choir, I was in musicals, I was in cheer, dance, all the things. So when I started to have my awakening, I would actually hear messages and I would hear voices, and it sounds crazy, but it's actually a thing. I remember I'm an esthetician and a massage therapist, so I was waxing one of my clients, and I just heard this male voice in my right ear, and it sounded like a big long tube. And it said Tiffany, and it sounded like he was shouting, but it wasn't like right up in my ear. And I looked at my client and I said, did you hear somebody calling my name? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay. So if you hear voices like that, that can also be a sign that your guides are talking to you, or you're picking up a presence of a spirit somewhere nearby. This used to kind of freak me out, and when I was a child, I was really scared of the dark. I would have really vivid dreams, and I would also sleepwalk, and that just makes a lot of sense for people who are very sensitive, who are naturally psychic. And growing up Mormon, it wasn't something that was talked about in my home. So it wasn't until I turned, I think I was 23. Yeah, 23, when I actually started reading books on psychic information, that I was like, okay, this is actually I'm just psychic. So if you have little ones or you have, really sensitive children, um, or you are also going through this yourself, read some books on it because it really helps when you can navigate it yourself, and it helps for further development of your child to be able to, kind of ask questions and not shut them down because of what they're feeling. Because a lot of kids have imaginary friends, and they're just more prone to tap into that energy because they haven't been so constructed to, it hasn't been beaten out of them yet by society. So a lot of people will go through life in the early stages being connected and then shut it off, in teenagerhood, and somewhere along the lines you start to pick it up again and understand why those things happened. I know that happened for me, and I know that that's a very common thing for a lot of people too. But going back to recognizing which ones are more natural for you. So look at your personality and look at what type of learner you are. If you are like a kinesthetic learner, like you really feel things, you may be more clairsentient. If you are a huge empath, that's also a big sign of clairsentience. You can just feel emotions of people before they even say it, or if they even say it. People who are in the service industry have a very strong gift of clairsentience. Massage therapy, nurses, where you have to know what's wrong with somebody, even if they can't articulate that. That's also clairsentience, and empathy goes hand in hand with that. Claircognizance, you are very kind of cerebral and you just know things. That's happened a lot too. And that can also go hand in hand with like telepathy, where you have a very strong connection with somebody like your best friend or your sister or your mom or whatever, and you just kind of know that something's wrong or something is going on, or you know what they're going to say before they say it. That is a big sign of claircognizance. So clairgustance is tasting. This one, like clairalience and clairgustance, those are probably the two that I'm not super strong at, which is kind of funny because I do a lot of candle making and I love scent and smells. But like clairgustance with the tasting, I don't get that too often, which I'm glad about because I don't really want to taste blood if somebody's had some sort of stuff going on there. But I will say that like with clairalience, I do smell things sometimes, like I'll smell smoke or I'll smell perfume. And that kind of picks up more for me. But my strongest are probably my clairvoyance, clairaudience, and my clairsentience and claircognizance. Those are my four that I really kind of go in with. And for mediumship kind of uses all of it. I am practicing my mediumship now, and it's so interesting because a lot of the information that I have already felt, like if I'm doing a reading for somebody and I'm picking up information from somebody, it comes from a place of just, it's almost like it's just channeling for me. And they will show me visions of something, or they will have me get a feeling in my chest, or, but that's also using psychic information. And when you're able to sit back and just open that field and just listen and be receptive, that's when information comes up a lot easier. And with mediumship and psychic development, Don't be afraid if you have people visiting you in the middle of the night. And if you have done, psychic research, I'm sure you've seen this, but I can actually attest to this, that this has happened multiple times to me. So I was sleeping, and me and my husband, we sleep in the same bed. And I was seeing a figure in my mind while I was dreaming, and it felt so real that it actually woke me up out of my sleep, and I still saw this figure standing next to my bed. And at the time, I was just like, whoa. And it was a dark black silhouette, and she had her hair pulled up, and I could see that there was some sort of like lacy something around her neck. And I just was looking at her, and then I saw her walk clearly around my bed, and my husband sleeps on the right of me, and she was just looking at my husband. And as soon as I recognized, like, holy shit, this is real, she left. That's also another thing, is when your rational mind starts to come back online, it can kind of weaken the connection. So when you do start to hone in on this and you really want to begin to connect to the other side, being in a receptive mode is really needed. So practicing meditation, connecting, sitting in the power, these are all things that are going to help you amplify those gifts even further. But if you even do get on the meditate or the mediumship route, not everybody goes that route, but it feels like an innate calling for me. And I've always been so interested in haunted places, in historic places, but know that when you do open yourself up to that, it is important to come from a space of love and also protection, because there are things that may linger with you, not to scare you, but it is important to practice boundaries with this type of work. So I will just give the people who want to visit me, I'll just say, hey, visiting hours are from this time to this time, and after that, I'm going to bed. So I haven't really had any weird stuff since. I'll also say, if you are sensitive and you go to Airbnbs or you go to hotels, know that you can also start to feel things and have visitors there, because it's like a residual imprint. There's so many energies coming in and out that don't be surprised if you start to like pick up on things. The last Airbnb that I stayed in, I was actually doing the dishes, and it felt like a male presence standing right next to me, and there was nobody there. I'm like, okay. So now I just start to bring like my spray, my cleansing spray, because most of the times you can't smoke in the, so you can't really use Palo Santo or sage or anything like that. So I made this cleansing spray, and I'll just spray it, and it helps. So having little tools like that in your arsenal can really help move through this waking 3D life easier. So yeah, but comment down below what your strongest psychic ability seems to be. And yeah, I would love to hear all of the psychics and witches on this channel. So if this has really resonated for you and you want more information, please like, share, subscribe. And if you would like a tarot reading, hypnosis, Reiki, anything like that, the link for it is in the description box below. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Blessed be. Bye.